Previously, the train is still moving out of control while Kakucho and Takemichi are still trying to stop the train from moving. Kakucho looked out of the train to check the railroad in front of them. At that moment, Kakucho tells Takemichi they won't have time to stop this train. This is bad, Takemichi. At this speed, we're gonna derail at that junction. We can see that the train has driven closer to the crowd of gangs who are fighting on the battlefield. At that crucial moment, Takemichi still tries to stop the train, even though he doesn't know how to do it, because in Takemichi's mind, if the train gets off the tracks, that'll be the end. It'll crash and kill everyone. Meanwhile, Sanzu, who was previously pushed out of the train by Kakucho, was sitting and enjoying the show on the ground, when he saw his plan was successful. You're too late. That thing isn't gonna stop that quickly. At the same time, Takemichi is frustrated because he can't stop the train. And he asked Kakucho to help him. However, when Takemichi looked back, he saw Kakucho, who was sitting weak and bleeding from his mouth in critical condition due to Sanzu's previous sword slash. The wound from Sanzu attack? It's been that deep all this time? Damn it, we're not gonna make it. At this rate, that terrible end will. In the midst of this desperation, Takemichi shouted in front of the crowd to get out of the way. Hearing Takemichi's scream, Kakucho woke up from his stupor. Then he says to Takemichi, "Takemichi, you need to get off the train or you'll die too." But Takemichi wouldn't listen to what Kakucho had to say, and he told Kakucho to get off the train. At the same time, are these the brakes? Fortunately, Takemichi found the brake lever that was next to him. With all his might, Takemichi pulled the brake lever. "I'll definitely stop this train. I won't give up." At that moment, Kakucho burst into tears when he saw Takemichi's determination to save everyone. "You're putting others before yourself, huh? I envy your friends." Then Kakucho stands up and tells Takemichi to move. "I'll do it." But Takemichi insisted on doing it together. Suddenly Kakucho pulls Takemichi out of the train. Then he said to Takemichi, "Even he was one of us. I'll get Sanzu ass for you." Takemichi was thrown out of the train and fell on the ground, while the train was still speeding towards the crowd of people on the battlefield. At this moment, it was clearly seen that everyone's eyes were on the train that was speeding towards them. Everyone was running around in panic after realizing that. Inside the train, Kakucho made up his mind. "I won't give myself a meaningless death. I'll definitely stop this." Kakucho with all his might pulled the brakes to stop the oncoming train. But unfortunately, shit, is it not working? In the midst of a critical moment, suddenly a miracle came. The strongest character who can match Sano Manjiro reappears. Izana Kurakawa. At that moment, Izana was standing beside Kakucho, and he said, "You're still as reckless as ever. I'll help you out, Kakucho." Even though Kakucho had resigned himself to his death, but after hearing words and the spirit from Izana, Kakucho was suddenly able to keep his senses, and he didn't give up. And then on the next panel, you can see Izana's hand holding Kakucho's hand and trying to pull the brake lever from this train together. And a miracle happened. The brakes suddenly worked and stopped the train before it reached the junction. Seeing that moment, Takemichi looked happy, while Sanzu looked frustrated. He didn't expect Kakucho to stop the train and save everyone. Not long after that, Takemichi ran towards the train to check on Kakucho's condition. But it seems that something terrible happened again. When Takemichi arrived at the train, Takemichi saw the state of Kakucho, who didn't move. This panel shows the tragic condition of Kakucho, with his eyes closed, and his mouth bleeding. At the end of this panel, there's a little note from Ken Wakui that reads, "To save everyone's life, Kakucho sacrificed his own." On the other hand, the delinquents who were fighting were surprised to see the train suddenly stop in front of them. They wondered what was going on. But not with Mikey. At this moment, Mikey looks apathetic, and with a calm expression on his face, he can guess this is the work of Sanzu. We can know beforehand. In fact, Sanzu himself never told all his plans to anyone else. but Mikey could guess and read the situation that was happening at that time. And in a loud voice, Mikey said to all Kanto Manji members, "All of you. What are you spacing out for? The second generation Tokyo Manji is at their last breaths. Let's show them no mercy." Hearing the yells from Mikey, the entire Kanto Manji members were excited. They shouted in response to burn their spirits. But the opposite is seen in all members of Tokyo Manji. At that moment they have surrendered and are helpless with the current situation. Then the scene changed to Takemichi, who was shocked to see Kakucho, who had died, and couldn't accept what had happened. By crying and screaming, Takemichi states that Kakucho must stay alive, because he has not expressed his appreciation when Kakucho has saved everyone. But sadly, no matter how much Takemichi cried and screamed, Kakucho was already dead and wouldn't respond at all. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, Sanzu, who was previously pushed down from the train and badly injured by Kakucho, he got back up and he walked while carrying his katana to Takemichi, who was still mourning Kakucho's death. Mitsuya, who saw Sanzu approaching with a katana, he warned Takemichi that Senzu was behind him. With an irritated face, Sanzu said, "You've completely ruined my plan. Hanagaki Takemichi, you are a goner." Takemichi, who saw Sanzu, pointed his katana at him, and without thinking, he immediately attacked Sanzu with his punch. But Sanzu countered the attack by kicking Takemichi, knocking him to the ground. As Takemichi was kneeling on the ground, Sanzu was getting ready to draw his katana, and then he said to Takemichi, "There's no way you'll win this. So, why are you still standing? You, who can't live among carnage and bloodshed, has no chance to win against Mikey. So this is the end." Seeing that terrible incident, Mitsuya screamed hysterically, calling Takemichi's name. The moment Sanzu was about to slash Takemichi with his sword, suddenly there was the sound of a motorbike breaking through the crowd and speeding towards them. And yeah, you can definitely guess who has come. He is the charismatic character we have been waiting for. Who else but the strongest monster of the 10th generation Black Dragon? Taiju Shiba. Taiju came on his motorbike, and then in a loud voice he said, "What's wrong, Hanagaki? Is this truly your end?" And suddenly Taiju jumps off his bike, and let his motorbike crash into Sanzu, who was standing in front of him. While laughing out loud, Taiju said, "Mitsuya, this uniform is too small." Mitsuya smiled upon seeing Taiju's arrival, looking like he had expected Taiju to come. Meanwhile, Hake is surprised by his brother's presence. And in the same place, Koko and Inui couldn't believe what they saw at that time. The guy they left behind in the Christmas Eve battle, and now he has suddenly appeared before them to help in the final battle, and he is siding with Tokyo Manji. Taiju Shiba, former 10th generation Black Dragon leader, and now as 2nd generation Tokyo Manji 6th Division captain. He has come in and he is ready for the final battle. Alright. We are taken to a flashback scene, which is just before the fight between Kanto Manji and Tokyo Manji started. Mitsuya personally met with Taiju Shiba, and that's where Mitsuya explained his plan to Taiju. Tomorrow, we're against Kanto Manji gang, a gang led by Mikey. It's going to be a heartbreaking fight. Therefore, we need your help. At that moment Taiju listened carefully to Mitsuya's words, then Taiju asked, "And what do I get from it?" With a smile, Mitsuya turned around and said, "You get nothing. But don't you want to witness it?" So from that meeting, Taiju decided to join Tokyo Manji 2nd generation, and decided to take part in the final battle. The scene returns to the present, where the final battle is taking place. At that time Taiju burst out laughing, and he walked up to Takemichi, while he said, "2nd generation Tokyo Manji gang 6th division captain, Shiba Taiju. I've got front row tickets to see Hanagaki beat up Mikey. From these words, we can conclude that now Taiju has definitely joined the battle, and he is siding with Tokyo Manji as the second-generation Tokyo Manji 6th Division captain. The crowd who heard those words were surprised. Hake is shocked to see his big brother actually join Tokyo Manji. Chifuyu couldn't believe that Taiju was working under Takemichi. Then Koko and Inui are surprised to see Taiju want to join the second generation of Tokyo Manji, knowing Taiju beforehand that he will never work under anyone. But not with Mitsuya. He smiled when he saw Taiju's arrival on the battlefield, considering it was according to his plan. Meanwhile, from Kanto Manji's side, they look annoyed with the arrival of Taiju Shiba as a new fighter from Tokyo Manji. Benkei, Wakasa, Mikey, and Hanma have stopped their fight after hearing the declaration of war from Taiju, and they seem annoyed with Taiju's arrival. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, Haruchio Sanzu's latest condition is shown. Even though in the previous chapter Sanzu was hit by a motorbike, but that didn't kill Sanzu. Seen at that time, he was still breathing, and trying to escape from the motorbike that was on top of him. In the midst of the commotion on his arrival, Taiju said to Takemichi, "Captain, we've clashed once, so let me tell you one thing. There is no one that can beat Mikey, but you." Of course, Taiju's words are not bullshit, because in fact, Taiju had already felt Takemichi's true power during the battle on Christmas Eve in the previous arc. After that, Taiju tells Takemichi about his plan. That from here on out, Taiju will pave the way for Takemichi, so Takemichi can towards Mikey. In response to Taiju's words, Takemichi immediately got up and prepared for battle. While shouting, Taiju and Takemichi ran side by side towards the crowd of Kanto Manji members to knock them out. Taiju beat all Kanto Manji members who got in his way, and easily one by one Kanto Manji members were thrown into the air, after receiving attacks from Taiju. Hake wonders when he sees his big bro fighting by the side of Tokyo Manji. "I can't believe it, Mitsuya. Big bro isn't the type to fight for someone, right?" Then Mitsuya said, "Well, somehow he was charmed by Takemichi. I mean, he saved the Shiba siblings after all." And then Koko remarked, "Haven't seen Taiju fight in a while, and that sure looks crazy. Yeah, looking like a whole demon over there." And it didn't stop there. Taiju entered his battle mode and hit all the Kanto Manji members who were still standing in front of him. The situation shocked all members of Kanto Manji when Taiju Shiba joined in the battle, wreaking havoc for Kanto Manji. And without realizing it, Taiju managed to defeat most of the Kanto Manji members and paved the way for Takemichi. But suddenly two guys came and stopped his way. And yeah, of course, you can guess who has come. They are Wakasa and Benkei. They came to stop Taiju. "You revived the Black Dragons, huh? But we won't allow you to reach Mikey." Then Taiju said, "Just a bunch of retired old men." Then Benkei said, "That spirit alone won't bring you to victory, young man. Do you think you can beat me?" With a loud voice, Taiju declared his fight between the duo legendary from the former first-generation Black Dragons, Wakasa and Benkei. Alright, the next fierce battle has been decided, Demon vs Legends. Who will win this battle to the death? While they were cursing and confronting each other, suddenly, Benkei dealt a heavy blow to Taiju while he was off guard. And it doesn't stop there. Wakasa quickly continued their attack combination by giving Taiju a kick. It's undeniable that the combination of attacks from this legendary duo is no joke. If we look at this fight, it reminds us of the Arc 3 deities during the legendary duo versus Tyranno South. The combination of attacks from the legendary duo sent Tyranno knocked down to the ground. But this is Taiju. In contrast to Toronto, Taiju is able to withstand the barrage of attacks from Wakasa and Benkei. Takemichi, who saw the battle, was worried about the condition of Taiju and he tried to help him. They're the legendary duo after all. Taiju getting beat up in a one-sided fight. I've got to help him. In a loud voice, Taiju said to Takemichi, "Don't step in Hanagaki. Leave this to me. Go and be Mikey's hero." Hearing those words, Takemichi swiftly went to reach Mikey, and entrusting the battle to Taiju. "I won't let these bastards get in the way." While shouting, Taiju ran to resume the fight that had been stopped. Suddenly Inui shouted, warning him to be careful. "They're the ones the two of us couldn't beat." Taiju suddenly stopped after hearing the warning from Inui. And then seen from this position, Wakasa and Benkei started to get serious in fighting. They took steps to launch their special deadly combo to attack Taiju. Seeing the situation, Taiju hesitated to go forward, and wondered with the movements of Wakasa and Benkei. In the middle of the fight that was going on, suddenly Senju woke up from her stupor. Then she said Waka and Benkei will use downhill rush. Inui and Koko, who heard those words, were wondering. Then Senju explained it. "I've only seen it happen in the dojo." Waka stops him and Benkei finished him off. It's their special deadly combo. They did it on dojo mats, so the other guy didn't die. In a loud voice, Senju warns Wakasa and Benkei not to do it. "You don't need to take it that far. You guys already have the upper hand. You will kill him." But it's too late. Wakasa and Benkei have made up their mind and are ready to take the risk. In full speed, Wakasa and Benkei charged at Taiju, who was standing in front of them. But Taiju easily stopped their movement with both hands. And then he said, "Go that far? No way. You can't even do that anymore, right? You had quite the run-in with my cat and dog duo, didn't you? Left you all worn out." What Taiju meant by his cat and dog was Inui and Koko. As we already know, Wakasa and Benkei have fought against Inui and Koko. Even though Inui and Koko were easily defeated, at least it made Benkei and Wakasa worn out. After Taiju stopped movement of Benkei and Wakasa, suddenly Taiju slams the heads of Wakasa and Benkei to the ground, and instantly knocked them both unconscious and lying on the ground. Senju, who saw that, was amazed by the strength of Shiba Taiju, who could defeat the legendary duo at once. Now Hanagaki, it's your turn. And finally, what we have been waiting for has arrived. Seen at that time, Takemichi had reached Mikey, who was standing on top of the container. And without a doubt, he challenges Mikey to a fight. "Come down, Sano Manjiro." So it all comes down to this. And now the final battle has been decided. One-on-one battle between second-generation president Tokyo Manji, Hanagaki Takemichi, versus Kanto Manji president, Sano Manjiro. The battle is about to begin. And at that time Mikey asks Takemichi, why did Takemichi come back to the present? Then with determination Takemichi replied, "I promised your future self that I would save you." After hearing those words, Mikey looked a little doubtful about his actions. Then Takemichi continued his words, "Your future self killed me. And then you tried to end it all by killing yourself." Taiju, who heard those words, he didn't understand and he was wondering. Future self? What the hell is he talking about? Across the battlefield, you can see Sanzu, who is starting to get up while holding his katana. As we already know in the previous chapter, Sanzu was knocked down after being hit by a motorbike, and he had been trying to get away from the motorbike that had fallen on him. And now he was starting to get up holding a katana in his hands. So, what action will he take for the next situation? And then the scene continues to Takemichi, who says to Mikey, "But at the very end, you reached out to me for help. That's the first time I heard your true feelings. I shook your hand and activated the trigger, to end this once and for all. In the middle of the conversation between Takemichi and Mikey, suddenly the guy who's wearing a Kanto Manji uniform runs towards Taiju. And suddenly he slashed Taiju's back. That guy is Sanzu. He slipped behind Taiju, and suddenly he slashed the back of Taiju, who was off guard. Taiju, who was slashed by Sanzu, immediately knelt down and collapsed on the ground. It didn't stop there. After successfully knocking down Taiju, with a body full of wounds, Sanzu shouted to Takemichi, "Hanagaki Takemichi. You call yourself a time leaper? Yet you don't understand how important his destiny is. His fate has been sealed ever since he was a kid. He has no other path to walk on except for the path of carnage." Not only Sanzu. At that time Hanma was seen coming over to Takemichi, who was already facing Mikey. With a smile Hanma said, "You're the only one left standing for Tokyo Manji right now. Seems like you're at the end of the line here." In this situation, Takemichi looks overwhelmed with Sanzu and Hanma who coming as his opponents. But suddenly, the guy who's wearing a Tokyo Manji uniform runs towards them. He is Chifuyu. He comes to help Takemichi. While jumping he tries to attack and take down Hanma. However, Hanma easily countered the attack with his punch. As a result of the blow, Chifuyu was thrown and fell to the ground. After that Hanma said, "Hey there Matsuno. I thought I'd put an end to you." Matsuya, who saw that, was worried about Chifuyu's condition, but in that situation Matsuya couldn't do anything, considering he had not recovered from the previous long battle. Despite being knocked down and covered in bruises from being beaten, Chifuyu didn't give up. He tried to get up and said to Takemichi, "I will never let you fight alone again. I regret it. When Draken died, I blame it all on you. You were fighting all alone. How pathetic I was." Suddenly, with a loud voice and his determination, Chifuyu said, "I am second generation Tokyo Manji Gang Vice President, Chifuyu Mitsuno, and I'll devote my life to our captain." Chifuyu quickly ran to cover Takemichi's back as a fighting partner, and prepared for battle with Kanto Manji. With this, the next stage of battle has been decided. The two best partners will fight together. Will they be able to change the situation for the better?